Hello, everybody, and happy holidays to you all. Happy Christmas season. I'm here to talk about Christmas and to offer up all of your Christmas questions about the holidays and why Christmas is important and why it's special and why it has meaning for everyone, whether you're Christian or not. But Christmas is a very special day. And so I just wanted to start off maybe this video series by talking about, first of all, Christmas in general and sort of the origin of Christmas, the origin of celebrating it on December 25th, these types of questions. Because I feel like right now there's a lot of people who are having a hard time understanding Christmas, why we celebrate it, and even Christian people are sort of not interested in celebrating this important holiday. It's important for us to celebrate it. So, where does it get its origins? Um, so, basically, when we are talking about Christmas, we are referring to Christ's Mass. Okay, and Christ's Mass is essentially the event that happens on December 25th or the night of December 24th. It is originally the holiday for the Catholic Church. So yes, Christmas has its origins in the Catholic Church, which is essentially the Catholics' chosen commemorative feast day for Christ. Um, and this is a different day than the Orthodox Church, which celebrates it on January 7th, and which the 12 days of Advent happen on December 25th. So there's 12 days of Advent, and it happens all the way up until January 7th. Okay. And so, in terms of its importance, Christmas, Christ's Mass, for the Catholic Church is the most important holiday, apart from Easter, because it is the commemoration of Emmanuel. And so, Emmanuel is a Hebrew word. El essentially means God. So Emmanuel means God with us. Now, I don't want to tangent too much on this subject, but there's a lot of Christians these days that say that the holiday of Christmas is actually a pagan one, which has to do with it being held on the same day as certain pagan holidays for the winter solstice. And a lot of people will criticize Christmas holidays for being actually pagan and telling people not to believe it. And so in this blog or in this vlog, I don't really want to get you caught up too much in this argument. I do, however, want to highlight this important fact that Christmas isn't actually the original name for Christmas. Okay? And so if we trace back to the original roots of Christmas, as incorporated as the holy day, not as the pagan feast, we are aware that the origin of Christmas differs between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, because obviously the first reason is they have different dates. Orthodox Christians, for that reason, the reason why Orthodox Christians have a different date than Catholic Christians on Christmas is because Orthodox Christians try to follow their liturgical year according to the Julian calendar, which flows in line with the dates of the Jewish feast of Passover, while the Catholic Church does not follow in line with Passover. Okay? And so the idea is, okay, well, why is it liturgically celebrated on December 25th and July 7th, right? Why is it chosen during this time? Because a lot of people speculate that Jesus' birth would actually have been around September, the seventh month of the year. And so they predict that basically, essentially, we should be, if we were following the accurate day of Jesus' birth, it would have been around September. So why did they choose December to celebrate Christmas, Jesus' birth, if he wasn't even born in December? Which is debatable. among different circles and cycles and stuff like that. Okay, it's not a simple answer. However, um, we need to talk about the idea of the liturgical year. Okay, and so what is a liturgical year? You'll hear me saying this word a lot. Um, so the liturgical year is a yearly cycle, and it has to do with our engagement with God. Um, to put it simply, like every season, summer, winter, fall, uh, spring, carries us into a different theme of what God is doing. Okay, so you think about like the winter season feeling different than the summer season, feeling different than the spring season. You're doing different activities during those seasons. Okay, and so a lot of this reason why the liturgical year flows the way it does, it's based on how farmers harvest their crops on the yearly cycle. Because most of history, the majority of people lived in agricultural societies revolving around farms, and so all of their events were basically planned around harvest season. So it would make sense that a liturgical year would be based off of the harvest. And not only this, but the idea behind the harvest cycle, the liturgical cycle of the harvest, is actually something Jesus talked about in parables. He would also talk about agricultural things in his parables. So this connection with the harvest season and to the events that are happening around us spiritually and how God moves gives us the understanding of the liturgical year. Basically, the understanding that God moves differently in yearly cycles based on the harvest. And this is so basically there's a harvest season, and there's a holy season, and then there's a harvest season again, and then there's a holy season again. Okay, and so basically to understand the liturgical year, there are four important tuning events, four important highlight events in every season. So in spring, this is the start of the Jewish year and the start of the harvest. Um, and this is where you have Easter, which is the day Jesus essentially started his harvest of souls through the redemption of sins and sinners. And yes, this is in tune with the Jewish Passover as well. So the Christian Easter is in tune with the Jews, supposed to be in tune with the springtime season of the Jewish Passover, okay? And then you have the end of the second harvest, okay? So basically, if you saw the year as like a circle, on one corner would you have spring, the other one you'd have fall on the other side of the circle. And the fall season, there's an important turn over where the Jews celebrate the Feast of Trumpets or the Feast of Tabernacles, and this is essentially to the Christians the coming of the return of Christ, a celebration of the coming of the return of Christ, and it's also Thanksgiving season. Okay, where you celebrate, you become thankful for everything that you have, and you kind of rejoice and appreciate the little things in life. Okay, and so there are two more special events um, as well. Okay, so spring you have one, fall you have one, summer you have one, and winter you have one. Okay, and so the summer liturgical event is the Feast of Transfiguration. So this is the day where basically Jesus, I've talked about this before, this is where Jesus in his human body revealed himself to be God and transfigured himself into God to his disciples. Happens in the middle of summertime. Okay, and so the winter time, again, when we look at it as if it's a circle, the summertime, summer being opposed to winter time, the winter time turning event is where we get our Christmas season. So basically, to understand the liturgical year, it goes from spring Easter to summer transfiguration to fall Thanksgiving to winter, which is Christmas. And so you have to understand Christmas is actually the opposite of transfiguration. Christmas is not God becoming divine, it is the divine becoming, sorry, it's not man becoming divine, it's the divinity becoming man. So understand why Christmas is celebrated in winter. You have to understand that the opposite of it is the transfiguration. And so this is important because to understand Christmas, you have to understand Transfiguration, okay, and how they contrast each other yet work together at the same time. This is one of the themes of the church, is that there's always these things where there's a characteristic of God that contrasts each other, and we have to understand both, like the godliness of God, but yet the carnality of Christ, right? The carnality of Christ and the godliness of Christ. And so, right, Transfiguration was the day that man reveals himself as God, and Christmas is the opposite, which is the Incarnation. Okay, so the original name for Christmas was actually the Feast of Incarnation. It was the day that God reveals himself as human. Okay, God takes on human form. So you see, there's like this liturgical contrast. On the brightest day of the year, which is like the summer solstice, Jesus, the Son of God, Son of Man, reveals himself to be the Son of God on the mountaintop. On the darkest day of the year, the Son of God reveals himself to be a human, the Son of Man, in a secret place, in a dark cave, in a manger. Okay, this contrast is what's important and why we learn to embrace both sides of Jesus. During Christmas, we embrace God's humanity, and it's a hard thing to do. Okay, and it's actually a very humbling thing. Um, but this is the foundation of Christmas, is incarnation. Okay, so you're gonna remember whenever you celebrate Christmas, remember it's all about the incarnation. Okay, and so what does incarnation mean? Incarnation just basically means to become carnate, or to become carnal, or to become flesh. So essentially, this is why Christmas is held on December 25th, because it just so happens to be set up on the same day of the pagan festivals. That is because pagans and early Christians follow seasonal cycles based on agricultural societies. So it just happens for the most part. I mean, there's some people who say that, like, when the Catholic Church became Catholic, they took a lot of pagan gods and made them into Christian saints. But at the same time, um, it's also not a coincidence that the liturgical year is similar to the pagan seasonal cycles, because both societies were agricultural. So in the end, it's all just based off the harvest and what people lived around. Okay, and so essentially, okay, knowing that Jesus' Christmas is based on the feast of uh, the Incarnation, we need to be highlighting this one event, which is God becoming human, right? This is essentially not just something we put on every year traditionally, but it's an important reality to reflect on as a spiritual truth, okay? When the days are darker and the earth is colder, the light that we are looking for is actually a human being hiding somewhere, whose star says he is of royal birth and who no man can find lest they be sent by an angel or use some tools of divination to find him. So, but God becoming man is a precious gift that is incredible the more you dwell on it, right? And it has all kinds of effects on our character and the way you treat one another, because of its importance on how we as Christians breed God's love, right? So, in some sense, we too, by grace, are allowing God to become incarnate in us. And so, this is just basically God becoming flesh through our flesh. And this day of Christmas is about giving the lowly a right to experience godliness, right? And so, if you understand, like, the way that society is, it's the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And so Christmas is supposed to be the day where those who've never experienced any high life, receive the high life of Christ, being humble as a human, and those who are high cannot find the precious gift. And so, my friends, I would like to talk more about Christmas and how your incarnation plays an important role on everyone's lives, and how there are deep spiritual connections to this day. And I'm planning on having a few more videos to reflect on Christmas and how this incarnation is important for us to embrace, as well as the inward traditions of Santa. So, but please remember, before we go into these more videos, that the incarnation means everything to the believer. And so we'll reflect on this more as the season unrolls and have a blessed holiday season. So God bless you.